Make love, not war. Treat one another as you'd like to be treated.
And then there's maybe a 15, 20-minute flight, what I would call a flight process, in which we moved through a jump gate at some point and then popped out of it at some point. And then the pilot says, "Welcome to Mars. We'll be landing shortly." And all I could really think of was, what? I mean, what? Mars? What? Yeah, I mean, it was just shocking to kind of hear that, but at the same time, you're in a transport ship with thousands of other personnel going there too. So the whole well, we're all in this together. I mean, the part of you that if you were all alone on this might make you freak out and go, no, I'm not going to do this. But you're with a whole bunch of other people. This is what you're doing. And so, there's just that whole part of, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. And as weird and as bizarre as it was to sort of have that experience, I mean, what, we're going to Mars? What? There's this whole other aspect of you just, okay, this is what we're doing. This is where we are. And you don't argue about it because you're trained and you're a soldier, and you don't just cry when you land somewhere that you're unfamiliar with. You go, okay, the training takes over and here I am to do my job, and you do your job.
With a very fascinating individual, again, name of Randy Cramer, or otherwise AKA Captain K. Your background is so extensive. There's so much, vastness of information. I've even checked out, a few of the interviews that you have online, like on YouTube. And there's so much information that you present, but I guess it's more so for a person who may not be aware of who you are and what you do. That there has been involvement within the secret space program, and you basically had your kind of 20 and back trip. So would you be able to talk to people about, how this all began for you, about this 20 and back experience, and how this all shaped itself into you coming forward and sharing this information that you are?
My life is such that my entire life has essentially been spent in the covert military space program in United States Marine Corps Special Section. Since as weird as this may sound for some people, I was genetically engineered from a petri dish from the ground up to be what I am, to be a engineered super soldier. We don't say super soldier in the inside. We call them augmented soldiers or augmented programs, but to use the vernacular people understand. And so when I finished my training period, which was when I was 17 years old, and it was time to be deployed, as is standard for covert military space program personnel, you get a 20-year tour. And so when you get deployed, you go away for 20 years and then you come back, and then the return process, they call it age reversing, but to my understanding, there's really nothing that they do to your body to reverse the age of your cells and make your old body young. My understanding is they essentially hatch you out a new clone body that's the age you were when they took you, and then put your entire consciousness and your soul and everything back into that body, and then put the other one in the incinerator, and then send you back in a body that's the same age as when you left. So you wake up the next day and you think, wow, that was the longest, weirdest dream I had. But you wake up, you're in your body, you're looking in the mirror, you see that you're that age again. You go, oh, what a weird dream. The fleet, the Solar Warden, Radiant Guardian fleets are who keep the peace out there. We basically are keeping the treaties so that, essentially we're guarding all of the space where no one's supposed to be. If you're coming in for a meeting at the Intergalactic Space Station, or you're coming for a meeting on Earth, there's like space traffic control, like air traffic control. So there's someone telling you, okay, stay on this course towards the space station, do not veer off. Stay on this course towards planet Earth to come in, do not veer off. And if you veer off, you're in patrol territory, and we'll go, hey, you're not supposed to be here, and let them know to get back, in their main track. Or usually people are in our patrol territory are trying to sneak in, and then we catch them sneaking in, and then we're glorified guard dogs at that point and go bark, 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 and bark and chase them out of the yard. So, that was mostly what we did, is we kept the peace out there and kept people out who weren't supposed to be in, let people come in who were supposed to come in, escort these people here, escort these people there, have this conversation here, have a meeting over there, but mostly patrol.
I can imagine, I guess, what was going through your mind firstly when you first, came onto quote unquote the red planet and just started to land, and what was your first reaction in coming on board this whole thing?
Well, I mean, basically we hit the ground and everyone's starting to disembark, and as we're I mean, I think what I was imagining as we're starting to disembark is that, you know, we were going to be maybe in another hangar, like the one that we left. We have a very large underground hangar in the moon, the one that we left. And I thought, oh, maybe that's what we did. We parked in another one of those, but that's not what happened. We actually just landed right on the tarmac. And so as we got out towards the gate, and everyone was going down the gangplank, it was clear that they were going outside. They were not going into a hangar. And as I'm watching people going out into the sunlight and into outside, you know, I'm like, wait a minute. Is this okay? Can we do this? We don't have spacesuits. Is this okay? And all I could really do was just kind of mumble to myself, and, you know, kind of maybe to somebody standing next to me, is this okay? Are we going to be all right? Like, not like the guy next to me knows any better than I do, but, you know, what else are you going to do but verbalize that? And you're just being pushed, you know, go, 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 go. So all I could do was kind of go, is this okay? And then as I walked down the gangplank, hit the tarmac, felt sunlight, cold breeze, thin, dry air as I took a breath.
So there is oxygen on Mars.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's thin. I mean, it's like a mountain environment.
Right.
It's like a high altitude environment. And I would say that it's way more habitable on the surface outside without an environment suit or anything else in the equatorial region in the middle, then definitely towards the upper, you know, polar regions, which is where we spent most of our time, which was, you know, what I would say Alaska. I mean, you know, like it's sort of that mid, you know, almost up to the Arctic Circle up there, but not quite. So, I mean, we were really high up north, and it was very cold up there most of the year. And you could not survive out there most of the time without an environment suit. So we never went outside without environment suits. Sometimes you could pop your bubble up and you could, you know, you could breathe the thin air out there, but you couldn't just, you know, let me pop out of my suit and get some fresh air. No, it's too cold. One middle of the winter, and I had a suit breach that came open, and I nearly froze to death. It was horrible. It's still so cold temperatures can still be horribly traumatic for me, because all of a sudden I start to feel that shaking. Oh my God, I'm going to get hypothermia and die. And it's horrible.
So is it kind of like Arctic-like temperatures, or is it even colder than the Arctic?
It can be even colder, but I can say it would also be warmer than the Arctic. This is sort of the interesting thing about this. It can be a really wide variance of temperature, which is some of the reasons why you still don't want to necessarily live on the surface. There are animals and critters that do, but most of them live underground. They burrow, they live in caves, they dig into the ground and so forth. There's not too many critters that, you know, birds that just live in nests in trees or something like that. That's just not a very habitable zone for them.
What kind of birds? Are like birds that we'd see somewhere on Earth, or kind of
like little Tweety birds, little like finches. I mean, they look like little finches, swallows. I mean, you know, I've seen both, you know, a fantail and forktail, you know, which is kind of different, like swallow, little birds, like I would call them, little ground birds, little ground diggers. I see little, my dad used to call Tweety birds, you know, just the sort of little backyard kind of birds, little brown birds.
And there's been talk about, you know, like cockroaches, spiders, rats on Mars as well too.
All kinds of regular things, little gopher, rodent, squirrel, whatever they are. I mean, things like that. Little snakes and lizards, and bugs. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, very good.
Now, I've heard people talk about bigger animals, bigger lizards and things like that.
Spiders and all that stuff.
Yeah, but again, that's got to be more down towards the equatorial region where they can survive on the surface and stuff like that and hunt. I mean, up north, most of what we saw were small things, us and the other indigenous species that lived up there that had technology and civilization to live up there, not a lot of wildlife. And my experience on Mars, I would say I'll give it a sort of a twofold experience of, you know, the general experience of the fauna and flora of what I would say is lesser intelligent life, and, you know, the sentient life. And the sentient life that we mainly encountered was an indigenous reptoid species and an indigenous insectoid species, which have both lived on Mars for a very, very, very long time. We also started to militarily encounter draconian reptiles who are not from there, who are an invading species, and were often attacked by all three of the species who were living there, which included us living there at the time. What I would call the lesser intelligent species were incredibly similar to what you would see on planet Earth, as far as small ground burrowing birds, insects, small reptiles, lizards, snakes, things like that. The vegetation is also kind of, it mimics kind of a high desert environment, certainly where we were, which was a colder region, up sort of about what I would say what would be the equivalent like Alaska. So we had even sort of less, sparser vegetation and animal life than exists sort of in the equatorial region. I have heard people who have been there in the equatorial region in areas where I have not been, who also spoke of 2 other native and or transplanted species who are more hominid or humanoid type species. One that even has sort of the elongated skull type. But since I haven't seen those or seen them in the manual, I can't really speak too closely on that. All I can say is that I had close contact with the indigenous reptile species, close contact with the indigenous insectoid species, and seeing birds, squirrels, rodents, and critters, coming in and out of the ground was a daily occurrence. So the atmosphere is thin but breathable. We were up farther north where it was, again, very cold, very thin, and you really didn't go outside without an environment suit. But before the atmosphere was destroyed, I presume, from what I've been told, that biological life on Mars was very, very similar to us. And my only thing that not being a biologist, the only thing I can sort of presume is that they're so similar because the back and forth between our 2 planets is not new, not at all. I would suggest, from what I've been told, that back and forth travel and organic exchange of life between Earth and Mars is something that goes back hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of years. So I'm kind of presuming that the reason they're really similar is because at one point, a really, really long time ago, either the same seeds of life were on one planet or the other, or people started bringing one kind of vegetation or animal from one planet to another, and they became really, really similar. So how far back, I can't say. But the only thing I can think of is that we've been exchanging and sharing biological genetic information for a very, very long time.
With much of what you were meant to do on Mars, was there an overall assignment that you were assigned to basically carry out on Mars?
Oh yeah, Special Tactical Infantry. That was what we were. Special Tactical Infantry Division 096. So basically what our job was to, as soon as we got there, learn how to put on the body armor, learn how to put it on again, learn how to take it off, learn how to fire the weapon, learn how to load the weapon. And after about 3 days of just learning how to just like use the equipment that you're using every day, then we're basically ready to go out into the field for our first field assignments, and then, which is just mostly patrol. But if there's something happening, then you get the siren goes off and everybody gets deployed to either protect the base if you think it's an incursion, or if there's we see troops coming towards us that are out on the desert, we're going to go meet them out on the plateau somewhere, or in some cases special assault missions, and we'd get all suited up and ready to. Everyone has a really different, unique sense of humor, and what's funny to one species isn't necessarily funny to another. But laughter is very consistent among every species that I have ever encountered. Almost every single time, you've been able to witness someone having a chuckle or a giggle about something. Sometimes it's to themselves, and you're not really sure what they're laughing or giggling about. And we would do the same thing sometimes, did you see me or that? And because someone says or does something that to you is funny for some awkward reason that you have to have this cathartic giggle about, but it's different, and everybody has different laughs and giggles. But listening to other species laugh is certainly one of the things that lets you know that we're way more alike than we are different. Everyone can have a giggle about something. Everyone can have both an uncomfortable giggle or laugh about something, as well as a cathartic, giggle or laugh about something, as well as a boisterous or happy giggle or laugh about something. So, I mean, I've seen everyone be able to sort of have a laugh about something. So that's definitely a commonality. Now, what's funny isn't the same, but everyone can have a laugh.
Be strong as the sun begins
Live in
to
love.
shine, and the pictures start to fade. The past has come